Hello everyone, welcome to the second video in the factor series. Last week we looked at value factor funds in India, and what surprised me the most was the top value factor funds in India didn't even give you value exposure. It surprised me so that I kind of looked at a lot of value funds, and pretty much a lot of active value funds didn't even have any value exposure from a fundamental perspective as well as from a return based perspective. So along the same lines, so we are going to look at another factor, which is the size factor in today's video. So we will first look at the largest size factor fund in India, which is the Nippon India Small Cap Fund. We will first check whether it has size exposure because previously in the last video we looked at ICICI Value Discovery Fund, which was the largest value fund in India, to check whether the largest value fund does it even provide you value exposure. Um, so in this case, we will go ahead with the Nippon India, which is the largest one, to see whether it provides you value size exposure because it's a small cap fund and provides you size exposure, right? And this is perfect, right? You expect as an investor, you buy a fund expecting an outcome or expecting some kind of an exposure, right? So it does, since its inception of the fund, it has provided consistent exposure to the science factor, which you can see it here from a risk source, from a percentage perspective, as well as on a beta level. It has provided consistent small cap or size exposure to say from a holding space. Also you can see 100 being it has a small cap exposure and 0 being it has large cap. You can see from a holding space also the largest small cap fund in India does have a size exposure. So now that we have looked at the largest one, let me quickly pick top five largest small cap funds in India to just check whether every all the five largest funds provide you the exposure of size. Um, I think I picked five funds just to be sure. Yeah, I picked five funds. Let me just go to asset comparer. All right, so this is perfect. So you do get size exposure, that is the size factor exposure in all the top five size funds, that is the small cap funds in India, unlike value funds which didn't give you any value exposure at all. So this is a good news from like a return based perspective. So one thing to know about like Quant Small Cap, which has like a diluted small cap exposure, was that I think until 2018 or 2019, the Quant Small Cap Fund was not actually a small cap fund. Until 2018, it was kind of like a dividend income or some kind of a fund, but it was not a small cap fund. So just to rebase it to 2019, let's say, right, January, to see whether the size exposure increases. Yeah, it has increased. So if I rebase it to 2019, I think around 2018, 2019 only they relabeled it to a small cap fund. So you can see all the top five small cap funds in India does provide you with size factor exposure, which is good news. Here is the twist: the category average in the small cap fund is around 35% or something, meaning uh, a lot of mutual funds in the small cap category only invest 35% of the allocations in small cap. So that means that a huge allocation goes to large cap and sometimes mid caps also, but huge allocation doesn't go into the small cap. In fact, you expect large allocation going into the small cap. It could be because of various reasons, like liquidity as a reason, or not a lot of small companies have huge liquidity. But this is something to know that like the category average seems to be around like on the lower end, not on the higher end. Quant Small Cap is like a good example to point out this issue, right? If you look at the other small cap funds, all of them are in the low market cap category. It is placed in the low market capitalization, which means that the size or the small caps exposure. But the quant small cap is on the larger end. So that means that you are essentially kind of the fund also has a large cap exposure, so it's not like 100% small caps, right? So which is something to know about. So now that we have understood from a return based perspective that all the top five small cap funds does provide you with the size factor exposure, and also from a fundamental perspective, uh, all the funds do provide you except the quant small cap funds, which has no heavy exposure to large caps in its fund as well. Let me quickly show you one interesting thing about the size factor. So I just simply ordered it by the largest size factor betas. What surprised me the most was that all the, I mean, funds here, when I order it by size factor, all of them are like passive small cap funds here. So you can look at Aditya Small Cap or Small Cap 50 Index Fund, Kotak Small Cap 50 Index Fund, Axis Small Cap 50 Index Fund. So when you order it by like the small cap beta, all the index funds of like small cap come into the picture, which is kind of good to see because you also pay like a lower expense ratio here when it comes to the small cap, right? So for Edelweiss, you're paying 0.14%. Shout out to Edelweiss. I think I've been consistently seeing their products in the low expense ratio category, which is kind of nice to see. And you have again other active the small cap funds coming after the passive funds, right? Now, to just finish off, let's quickly spice it up a bit and see what are the top five performing funds in the small cap category in the last 1 year. So I think these are the top five ones, right? So we can also take it and analyze it in depth. Again, another surprising thing is like you can also see index funds, like small cap index funds. You're paying 0.8%, 0.25% compared to other small cap funds. But again, here it's not super expensive, right, compared to the small cap 50 index fund here. So I will pick another two funds in the small cap category. So I'll pick the Mahindra Direct Growth. Okay, yeah, Kotak's Nifty Small Cap Fund. Um, I think I've already picked the Kotak Nifty Small Cap 50. Did I pick the Axis one? Okay, I'll just pick the Quant Small Cap Direct Fund as well, right? Also, is on the higher end from 1 year CAGR. So in the last 5 years, not in the last 5 years, I picked the five funds that has performed well in the last 1 year, and there you go. So I think I'll just quickly rebase it to November, just to November. Let's say 21 is today's date, so why not? Uh, let's purely look at it from a performance perspective, because for a lot of us, performance is something we do care about to an extent, right? But this is awesome, right? So if we look at it from performance perspective, I go to the statistics tab. This is like unreal returns, right? In the last 1 year, 37% for the quant small cap, for the Bandhan small cap. Bandhan has actually has done really well in the last 1 year, giving you 50% returns, which is just explosive. Probably that's the word to uh, to describe these types of returns. And I think in the last 1 year, I think the goes to championship goes to Bandhan small cap, but also you see the other index funds in the category. This is not an index fund, but Kotak Nifty small cap fund, which has again generated 31%, right, compared to the other uh, no, active funds in the same category. So I think that brings us to the end of the video. The good news from this video is that all the funds, even the top performing funds, do have size exposure. So which is sort of a great news, because that's what you as an investor are expecting to get when you're investing in some sort of like a factor fund like this, right? So that's a positive. Even from a fundamental style box perspective, you are well placed on the small cap end. That's again another kind of a great news, right? So I think that brings us to the end of the video. Thanks a lot for watching. See you next time.